This podcast is part of the Treksphere Network.
To find more Star Trek-related content, visit Treksphere.com. This is a measure of an episode. If you are not aware, if this is not what you were looking for, then please exit out now or give us a try.
No, stay.
Yeah, stay. Stick around.
Just stay.
It's like
36 minutes and 46 seconds.
Won't take too much of your time. You can finish your lunch while you're listening to us. But it is our continuing mission to explore what makes Star Trek proper Star Trek. Now, if you hate Star Trek, stick around anyway, because, you might enjoy us. But we want to know whether or not it's quality Star Trek or if it's just good or bad TV. Kind of another afternoon special. But anyway, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Paul. And the criteria by which we judge these episodes, number 1, is there science fiction inherent to the plot? Number 2, is that science fiction unique or novel in some way? And number 3, is there a moral or ethical dilemma presented by the episode? I'm Paul.
And I'm Jonathan. And this week we watched Family Business, which is episode 23 of season 3 of Deep Space Nine.
I do like the idea that anybody who accidentally started listening to this, the intersection of people who accidentally clicked on a Star Trek podcast and have also seen this episode, I'm saying maybe there's 2 people on the planet. 2 people that this would happen to
who
by accident
accidentally clicked on our podcast and they were like, oh, I know this episode. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen this episode. Yeah.
Well, I like the idea
2
of them
people.
like searching family business, and this podcast came up and they were like, oh, let's try this.
Well, I think those 2 people are you and me.
We're the only
It's
ones
an
that the
accident.
search comes up for.
Well, no, the 2 people that I said this would happen to who have seen this episode and don't want to listen to a Star Trek podcast but accidentally did, that's us. That's you and me.
So the blurb says, an agent named Brunt from the Ferengi Commerce Authority serves Quark with a writ of accountability for improper supervision of a family member.
And that's the Netflix blurb, right?
That's the Netflix blurb. Yeah, as often as possible, which as of right now is only DS9 and TNG. But as often as possible, we are using the Netflix blurb because it's so bad.
Well, and accurate to historical Netflix blurbs.
Yes.
Because this is exactly what happens in the cold open.
I do want to say, like, we made it through 2 episodes without pointing out the connection, the last episode and the episode before that. But our random generator jumped from the Enterprise incident to the Andorian incident, which I can't believe we missed 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Not even talking about
I know.
it.
That's crazy. It's nuts.
But now, last week we had our introduction of Shran, which was Jeffrey Combs' character. And then this week we had our introduction of Brunt, which was Jeffrey Combs' character. I feel like this is a bit of a stretch on the generator making connections because he played so many characters. But to go from the introduction of one character to the introduction of another character, who are both long-running characters and played by the same actor, is pretty coincidental.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the generator works in mysterious ways. It is impossible to predict.
Right, we do not question
why.
the generator.
Yeah. But I still think a poignant connection nonetheless, right?
Yes, yeah, this
is like legitimate connection that
Yeah.
that it happened by accident.
yeah, this is not tenuous at all. Yeah.
I feel like they should have renamed this episode the Nothing Connection. or the Nothing Incident. That should have
The Nothing incident?
the Nothing.
Okay.
Or just the Nothing. Nothing. DS9323 Nothing.
Yeah.
What happens? What happens in this episode? We have nothing to talk about.
Well, we learn that Quark's mother keeps her profits.
No, wait a minute.
Okay.
I think the first thing we learn is that Ben Sisko has never tossed a salad in his life. Or maybe Avery Brooks has never tossed a salad. I'm going to keep saying toss the salad.
Yeah.
Like, is it still a bad, like, is there still kind of an innuendo there, or have we moved on?
You should combat it out.
He's preparing a salad, right?
There you go. Yeah.
And he's got the 2 tongs or whatever, and I've never seen somebody, he must have thought the camera wasn't on the salad.
Right.
Because he does nothing to it.
Yeah.
And then he sprinkles nothing onto some more nothing and then moves it around. I don't know. It just struck me. It's like, if you're opening your episode with somebody preparing food, why don't you make it interesting? Like he's just kind of touching the lettuce. Touches the lettuce.
Yeah. Like pats the lettuce down with it just a little bit. Yeah. Like just making sure that the food is still there. Yeah.
I thought this was Science fiction.
I mean,
Anyway.
maybe that's how you toss salads in sci-fi episodes of things. It's the sci-fi approach to tossing a salad, to preparing a salad.
Well, it was nothing like what I expected, having my salad tossed.
Right. This is what all the people are talking about? This is
I know.
not exciting at all.
And I thought it couldn't get any worse than this. But, okay, so this scene where he's tossing the salad, they introduce this whole thread of Cassidy Yates.
Yes.
Captain Cassidy Yates.
Yes.
And we're at the point now where this woman who's been in the show has died and come back to life like so many times. I have no idea what's going on with the show because she keeps showing up, and it's always these really important moments in her life. She just died. She just came back to life. They just met. I've now met her mirror universe counterpart. That I'm very confused as to what's going on with this character. But
so we've
this
met
person,
his wife.
oh, his wife dies.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I thought that she dies too.
No, Cassidy never dies. Like Cassidy, I'm actually kind of
That's right.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they introduced her this early on, which I think is great because she does stay as kind of a side character until the last season where I think they do get married and then he becomes a prophet. But yeah, like
That's right. Well, this isn't that late. This is like almost fourth season.
I know it's almost fourth season, but I thought she was introduced in like the fifth or sixth season. I didn't realize that she was introduced early enough where it seems like there was actually a character arc plan going on for Sisko.
I conjoined his dead wife, who was dead at the beginning of the season, or the season. He's and also at the beginning of the show.
Right.
So,
she's the Kenny of Deep Space Nine. You know, every time
Yeah.
she shows up, she dies.
right. But anyway, they seed this person that everybody wants Sisko to go out on a date with. These are the stakes, by the way. They're setting up the high stakes for this episode. And then the second, like the cold open closer, the cold, the what do they call it? The hard out.
Yeah.
The whatever we have a name for it in the business. Is that Quark's reputation as a entrepreneur is at stake because his mother is making money.
Right.
That's it. Those are the stakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I will
you know,
say, okay, so this is interesting. So this whole scene starts with Quark at his bar. It's very frenetic. It's very busy. He's filling a lot of tickets, as it were, and complaining about Mog, who I don't actually remember who that is. Mog?
Nog.
Mog?
Nog.
Nog.
Joining Starfleet.
Well, no, Nog is his brother, isn't it?
Nephew. Rom is his brother.
Oh, Rom. Got it. Okay. So what's interesting is that it's a oneer, meaning they never cut. So they're kind of following him around, doing everything that he's doing. And it's kind of a long take. And if you think about it, especially in something like this, where they're taking plates off and putting plates on and putting stuff into glasses and taking glasses out, like whenever they redo that, whenever they do take two, they have to reset all that stuff.
Yep.
So it probably takes 5 times as long to reset the set, all the props, as it does to just film the scene.
Yeah.
So I
I
found
would
that
agree with
interesting.
that. Yeah. But it's interesting too because like it probably overall takes just as long. It just looks more impressive and it only looks impressive if you notice it because I didn't notice it. I wasn't paying attention to that.
Sure.
But the amount of time that it takes to do the multiple scenes and have the quick reset and the quick shoot versus the long reset and the quick shoot, it probably equals out to the same amount of time.
Maybe, but it is much more difficult to do really long takes because
I know.
if you mess up one line at the very end of it, you got to start all the way at the beginning.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good point.
it comes across as more impressive, but only if you notice it. Otherwise, you know, you're doing it just to show off that you can do it. Because I don't think that there was any reason for this scene to be in one take.
No.
You know?
Other than they didn't have enough time.
Right. Like there
Although they should have had plenty of time because it obviously took 15 minutes to write this episode. And so they should have had all the time it would normally take to write a good episode. They could have used that in the shooting.
So everybody who was in this episode sings its praises. The producers, the directors,
Why?
the writers, the actors. The only person who
And this
didn't like
happens-
it was Moogie because of her prosthetics. she did not enjoy how long it took, to the point where she actually did not come back when they wanted Quark's mom to come back in following episodes.
So I will say that the acting is spot on.
Yeah.
Everybody is doing a absolutely incredible job with their characters.
Yeah, nobody felt
I will
uncomfortable.
give it-
Nobody felt like they were mailing it in. Yeah.
Yeah. It just was not interesting of an episode. Nothing happens. It's not even science fiction
Right.
at all. At all. I'm like pissed off. Like, why? How do these episodes get greenlit?
Well,
Like, this is like B plot, maybe. We need to get Quark off the ship or off the station for some reason. Let's have him do this bullshit with his family, whatever. And let's get to the science fiction, interesting time travel space wars thing. You know?
I think you're right. Like, it probably could have been condensed to be emotionally impactful if there was like if the A plot was split between 2 episodes as a B plot. So we established the Ferengi world and all that sort of thing in another episode, and his relationship with his mother. You know, we did all of that in one episode, and then we had the conflict from this episode in a B plot in another episode. So the emotional development had already been set, so we could have the emotional payoff in another episode, and that way we could have like really solid sci-fi A plots going on in those 2 episodes as well. Because you're right, like both of these were just relationship situations, but I think you're right. Like I really enjoyed this episode, but I enjoyed this episode because I enjoy character episodes when they're done well. And I know that you don't, but you're right. Like, this is there's no sci-fi. The moral and ethical dilemma was solid and very obvious, but there's no sci-fi whatsoever.
Yes. So I think we should point out that this seems to happen a lot in DS9, where they have these heavy-handed social commentaries that nobody would really disagree with, even in the time. I mean, I think they're making a heavy-handed statement about female equality, obviously, but in a way that nobody can really disagree. Like, who's going to disagree with this idea?
Right.
Right? I think if you're trying to make a point, you make the point that is a little bit more relatable, which is not should women be able to wear clothing and make money. I mean, I guess they're juxtaposing a ridiculous idea of women can't wear clothes, women can't wear money, or wear money. They can wear money if they want. With this is just as ridiculous as women not making as much money as men. Maybe that was the idea, but it just feels so after school special. And also, every single scene where they were addressing this was the same. Quark was
Right.
steadfast in his idea that you're being selfish, Mom. This, of course, being a selfish statement on his part as well. You're being selfish, Mom. Look what you're doing to the rest of the family. She's saying, no, I have just as much of a right to make money and wear clothing as you do. And nothing really happens. There's no arc. Nobody comes to any conclusion except that she seems to love her sons more than her need to upheave the system.
Right. Yeah, and Quark never came to accept that, and
Quark just is like, oh, great. Now life can go back to normal. My
Right.
reputation is saved. My money is saved.
yeah,
That's all that he cares about. And it just made Quark look like an a-hole.
right.
And I know that he's not supposed to be goody two-shoes, but there are occasions where he does show some sympathy and empathy for people, you know? So I don't know. It made him just look bad.
Yeah.
The person that I liked the most was Rom.
Right. Well, and a lot of the things that he was saying were very cringy. Like, I get that it's Ferengi and it's the society and all that kind of thing, but just watching it through a human lens, you know, is just like she was saying, aside from being female, you know, and he's like, that's all the reason you need.
Yeah, I think they were trying to show how ridiculous the inequality between men and women is.
Right.
So I think that must have been it. But I just hate that they chose this medium to do that.
Yeah. Based on what I was reading, it doesn't seem like that was the overall intention. Like, it didn't seem like it was supposed to be a reflection of the inequality in our culture. It was just showing more about the Ferengi culture, and they had kind of decided that to do so, they wanted somebody who was going to upset that culture. And as the writing progressed, they decided it would be Quark's mom.
Okay. Well, I felt like they could have done it in a less heavy-handed way.
Sure.
It did feel like they were trying to lecture us.
Right. Yeah. Which I feel like it's one of those things where you see it there, because it's currently happening in the world anyway, but you see it there because we have a culture where the females are not equal. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Then watching this, it's like, oh, they're just trying to send the message that women aren't equal.
Then why not choose a topic that wasn't so relatable, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
Why not choose something that's a little bit more alien?
Right.
Which they can do. They've done it before.
Yeah.
But I felt like this whole idea of an oppressed, even if the allegory is not women, but another group of minority, whatever that might be. Not that women are minority, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I mean, I just feel like there's a way to do that that's a little bit more creative. Because, I mean, you have to admit, it did feel like they were saying the same thing in every scene.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't exploring anything. They were just hitting us over the head with it.
There were little bits of information, like Quark staying up all night, seeing how much profit she genuinely had. And her talking about, like, not being able to address people or to be dressed. But it was the same argument, just different topics. Like, I want to do this. Well, you can't because you're female. Well, I want to do this. Well, you can't because you're female.
Right.
Yeah.
It was over and over and over again.
Yep.
There were a few things that popped up to me, though. Number one, was there hair growing out of the mom's ears? Or was it just a weird negative space thing where it was just black and it looked like hair? Because it looked like a huge tuft of hair coming out of both of her ears. I don't know if you noticed this. I
didn't, but I do know that her makeup was almost an exact replica of Sean Wallace's, like, Grand Nagus.
Oh, okay.
And so maybe I just don't remember whether or not his had hair.
So once I saw that, I could not unsee it, and that's all I was watching for the whole episode. Just this gigantic, like, tuft of pubes coming out of her head.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it was more entertaining or less entertaining. But
just
anyway,
very distracting, I can imagine.
Yes, very distracting. And then Rom and Quark fight. A little tussle.
Yep.
And at 1.5 speed, very entertaining.
Yes.
I very much enjoyed.
Well, and that was a moment too where I would have liked to have seen more of a brotherly thing there, where, like, maybe, like, Quark genuinely hurts Rom, and he then becomes apologetic and sympathetic towards him. Just how brothers are. Like, you want to kill your brother until you actually hurt your brother.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would have been fun
true.
to see.
Or even the other way around, because Rom is definitely portrayed as the sweet boy.
Right.
And finally, he has a moment like that later, where he kind of lays the law down. I like the idea that he's always deferential to his mother and to Quark, that all of a sudden he's putting his foot down. I guess that would have been a little bit more fun for me, which I guess I got a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So
it was played very quickly, of just them saying, Rom, you said I got to keep all the profits. Rom, you said that we were going to split it 50-50. And then he just says, yes, I lied to both of you, but it's because you're doing blah, 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 and I'm going to go take a nap. And that was the end of it.
Right. Yeah. So another thing that I noticed was we got a little bit more, I guess, expression of the financial system, which is Latinum. Is it Latinum or Latinum? Like Liti or Litn?
It's Lati, and so it just depends on who says it.
Anyway, what's the value of these things? Because they say gold-pressed Latinum.
Gold-pressed Latinum, yep.
And is there another kind that is not gold-pressed that is worth less? Or is just a shorthand? Latinum is gold-pressed Latinum.
Ooh, good question.
And how much are these? How much are these things worth?
Right.
Because they seem to be handing them out. I think they're like worth $20.
Well, there are strips and there are bars, and there is
and so when they were tipping each other, when they were doing the Naked Gun back and forth, tipping each other, those were strips or those were bars?
Those were strips.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm going to put those at like $20.
Sure, I can see that. I also liked that moment too. Sorry, where he climbs the stairs and he just has that moment where he talks about something going down in value. You remember that?
But when he shows up at the whatever.
Yeah, he talks about like those are the steepest 40 flights of stairs I've ever had to climb up, but 7 strips of latinum for an elevator is just highway robbery.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great.
And then he just turns the corner and he's like, "Oh, the price of whatever, self-sealing stem bolts went down." Huh.
Yeah.
And then just keeps walking.
I mean, I like the idea of somehow this society that is totally obsessed and myopic about obtaining wealth somehow manages to thrive. And even where half their population, theoretically, if their genetics work the same way that humans do,
right,
is subjugated and a lower class, etc., that they're able to kind of in the same conversation as how do Klingons get into space, how do Ferengi get into space? Because it's not just about financial ability to get into space. There has to be some kind of consensus around the world, I guess,
right,
of your planet to get to that spot, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting. I would love to see more detail about how that stuff works. Get into the nitty gritty for me, because right now it's kind of cartoony where you have to pay to sit down into a chair.
Right.
And that doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, I guess it's an alien, so anything goes, but it's got to make some sense, right? It's got to flow a little bit.
Yeah. But it could also be, that's the only place that does it because it is essentially the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, but I feel like everything is so cartoonishly done in that they are just completely upset. It's the only thing on their mind.
Right.
Is money. And
yeah.
I don't know. It'd be cool if they could find a way to get us to that spot. How does a society do that?
Right. Well, if you go back to their original appearance, they're so different.
Yeah. They're more like monsters.
Yeah.
Like nerdy monsters.
Right. And I'm excited to talk about that episode whenever we get to it. I don't even know which one it is.
Didn't we already watch it? We watched one. It's the one where they implant Picard, or they take control of Picard's mind as revenge.
Right, but I'm thinking of the one where they're on the planet and they're using the like phaser whips.
Right. They're like stranded on the planet or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. But I did also. It's probably my favorite relationship dynamic out of anything when it's done in this way, where Sisko is talking to Dax, and he just treats her as a colleague, and he calls her old man and all that kind of thing. Like, that's my favorite relationship dynamic overall. And just that moment where they were talking about him seeing Cassidy. And, and he's like, tell me, like, is she worth all this hype? And she's like, well, if I had been Curzon, I would have already stolen her from you. And he says something like, that's why I'm glad you're not him anymore.
Well, see, this is the thing, is that their relationship is less camaraderie and more flirty. Maybe I'm missing something, or I'm just misreading it, but it always reads to me as somewhat flirty, like they're always will they, won't they type of thing, or are they? And we don't know. And it's just sort of a side thing that nobody talks about.
Right. I think obviously being a Trill and a symbiote and all that kind of thing, she's definitely pansexual. And so I think that she just comes across as flirty in general, and she just confides a lot. Like, that's how she has a lot of conversations. And
yeah, but Sisko's like winking at her. I don't wink at you. It's like, well, I'm glad you're not over there. Wink, wink. Nobody or friends don't wink at each other unless you're doing it ironically.
Right. I don't know though. Like, if we were bros, and just not through a sex change, but like through a genuine of like, we transferred your brain into a female body, I could see the relationship changing to just a very like non-sexual flirty, which is not a thing, but like it would kind of be like the stupid game the kids like called Chicken Out.
Well, okay, we'll get to that in a second because I don't know what that is. But if I were to be transplanted into a woman's body, I would immediately have to disown all of my male friends, because I don't want now my friends lusting after me.
Sure.
I don't want that. I don't want that dynamic of like, I want to still have the same relationship when you weren't sexually attracted to me.
Right.
You know? So that would be weird. Now, I don't know if sexual stuff is transmitted, if a gender kind of thing, when you're a trill, how that works. Maybe you're just kind of neutral, like maybe. I don't know how that works or how it would work. We'll have to read up on the books.
Well, they do a very weird thing of severing all ties when the trill changes.
This is why, right? Well, then how come Sisko gets to still be friends?
Right. And that's the thing. Like, it's got to be only on the planet, because there is an episode later on where Dax runs into an old flame and they rekindle their relationship, and it's shunned by the Trill Society because it's a relationship of a previous host. And I don't remember like how far the shunning goes, you know, if like you are supposed to completely ostracize yourself from everybody, or if it's just the people that you had relationships with, like romantic ones. But they do have some kind of rule about that.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you're kind of becoming a new person. So anyway, the ending of this is basically the mom says, yes, of course, I will relinquish, I will admit to doing wrong, and I will take off my clothing, and I will sign the thing, and all will be right because I love my sons. Quark is restored, goes back, very happy ending. We then find out that she lied to her son and that she's keeping 2/3 of the money and will probably end up making more. I liked that ending. I thought it was very apropos of what I would expect a society like this how they would behave. That you can trash your family too. You can lie to your family, even in this, for the sake of profit. I like that. I felt like it was a little too nice tied bow at the end. Like there should have been left, I guess, more to be discovered.
Well, right, but that's kind of my point. Like when you said that nothing happens, like Quark goes back to thinking that his mother relinquished all of her profits and she's not going to do it anymore, and the mother is still making profits, and she's just talking about how she's going to try to hide it better. And
right, nothing changes.
Nothing changed. Yeah.
It just felt too like even the music felt very, it was a happy ending,
right?
Because everybody got what they wanted.
Yeah,
but episodic television doesn't work that way. You kind of need something to propel us into the next episode.
Right. I mean, well, kind of. No, episodic very much is tying everything up neatly in a bow for the next episode, and they've learned nothing. I
guess that's true
from the previous episode.
You're right.
But
I guess the cliffhanger in this was the relationship between Captain Yates and Captain Sisko, or Commander Sisko. Commander Sisko?
Captain Sisko? I think he's captain at this point, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, and it was also, it was nice to actually have a button of, oh, this is why Jake thinks that they are going to get along well. Because she starts talking about...
baseball.
Yeah, because baseball, And it hasn't been played for 2 centuries, which... Why? Like, why of all the sports? Like, I can understand football. Because it's actually already struggling, just because they're finding more and more medical issues of all the tackling. But baseball?
Well, it would have been great. It would have been excellent if they set up Jake as sort of he's a big sports guy. And throughout the whole episode, before they drop the bomb that baseball has not been played in 2 centuries, that he's going off for his very obscure sports practices. Like, yeah, I got water lacrosse in 15 minutes. What do you want?
Right.
Like lawn bowling is in 20 minutes. I got to go. Like they still play all these ridiculous other sports, but baseball not played for 2 centuries.
Right.
See, all these great ways to fix the episode. But
they didn't do that.
But they didn't do that. But I will say, so Sisko finally has his date with Captain Cassidy.
Yeah.
Captain?
Yeah.
What's her first name?
Cassidy?
Captain Cassidy Yates. Yeah, okay. And so they have the date, and it's like the ball is dropped. Literally. And figuratively. No, not ball. The bomb. The ball is...
Literally?
Maintained. Doesn't he bring a baseball? Doesn't he always have a baseball with him he's always playing with? I don't know. Anyway, they have their date, and it ends really well, and they walk off to Happily Ever After.
Uh-huh.
And they pan up, and Jake is like up there. He's like, yes. And the implication there is like, you were watching the date?
Uh-huh.
Like, that's That's
extra
like
creepy. Right.
I understand if you're 5 and you need to make sure everything's okay. Like that's it. But he's 16-ish,
Well, and
watching his dad.
it's also like you peek your head in, maybe like every 5 minutes or so, just to like see that like how it's going for like the first 15-20 minutes, and then you're like, okay, he's got this, they got this, it worked out the way I was hoping it would. Awesome. Like, I'm gonna go do my own thing.
Right.
But you don't,
watching the whole time.
Right, you don't hover over the whole thing. Like that absolutely could have been handled with him because of how the promenade is set up. Like sitting somewhere else, and not in Quark's, but sitting somewhere else, doing something else, and seeing the two of them walk by, and have that feeling of like triumph and accomplishment and satisfaction.
Or go the other way with it. Have him be clandestinely kind of being the waiter at the other table, the guy, or being the other patron with the hat on over the newspaper.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm picturing. Like 2 tables over.
But all of these things,
right?
Like he's the bartender, he's the waiter.
Oh, he's
the guy. He's all of them.
Right.
Like every shot where they cut away, like on the 2 shot for both of them.
Yeah,
he's like another character walking by.
Right. I mean, if we're doing a comical episode, you might as well just lean hard into it.
Well, it was, right?
Yeah.
It fits.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea also, just kind of along those lines, but just making it a little bit more realistic, is as they're getting up to leave, Sisko goes over to a table, and he's like, nice job, son. And then it shows Jake with like a mustache and sunglasses or something. And he's like, oh, what? Your son? What do you mean? Like,
or Sisko's on to him, and he keeps having him beamed away. But Jake comes back as a different character, hoping he won't be recognized.
Right.
And he keeps getting beamed away.
And just like one of the times he's running up and just gets beamed away.
He's like, no.
Yeah. Dad, no, we'll never know.
And then the episode ends.
Yeah.
All's well on the farm.
Yep. Everything resets. Ben has a new love. Jake has a future stepmom. Quark and his mom get along well. Yeah.
And with Rom. I guess that's the only thing we can say, is that probably the Quark's relationship with Rom is maybe a little bit better now.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't take him for granted.
Right. I mean, he does. But
he does. Yeah. You're probably right.
Yeah. He forgets
all. Because it resets.
Yep. He forgot all this happened by next week.
All right. Well, so obviously for me, we said this before, not a Star Trek episode.
Not a Star Trek episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Not a proper Star Trek.
Yeah. This was an episode.
It was well done.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy it. I did not like it. I felt like there was just not enough going on, in spite of how good the performances were, and the fact that there was actually darts. Darts made it into the episode.
Right? Yeah. Just in reference. Yeah. Their lucky dartboard. Yep.
Right. And they kept on. What was weird for me is they kept on saying that it wasn't about the board. They just liked playing on it. It wasn't the lucky dartboard. They're just like, no, it's not lucky. It's just we like playing on that one.
Right.
I was like, why is it bad to have a lucky dartboard? Why were they pushing back on that? I didn't understand.
Yeah. I don't know.
I need answers.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, not a proper Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
And you agree?
I agree. And one last comment, just you talking about how the fight at 1.5 speed was hilarious. There was an argument that they were having. I think it was while Quark was actually deducing how much profit she genuinely had. And even at 1.5 speed, I looked at my phone twice being like, is this at 1.5 speed? Like there was so much pause between conversation, or like they were saying things so slowly that at 1.5 speed, I was still shocked at how slow this scene was moving.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of jarring to just go back to 1 speed and listen to it. You're like, oh, wow, this is intolerable. Well, should we see what we're watching next now?
Yes.
Star Trek Voyager, Season 2, Episode 14, Alliances. This might be our first season. No, it's not. What am I talking about?
No, the only season we haven't done yet is DS9 Season 7.
I feel like it's a good Star Trek episode title if you can put Star Trek in front of it and it sounds like its own show.
Star Trek Alliances?
Star Trek Alliances. I would watch that show.
Right.
Like, what does that mean? Finally, the Federation and the Borg get together to defeat. Well, I guess they did that in Voyager. They did that. That's a thing in Voyager where they, whatever, species 2697, 867, whatever. They did that.
Okay, so nobody did anything creative on this one. They have the same blurb for both Hulu and Prime. So it says,
that's interesting.
Right. Hoping to strengthen Voyager's strategic position in the quadrant, Janeway reluctantly seeks an alliance with the Kazon.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
I'm glad you
The not Klingon?
intrigued. Yeah. The Klingons from Wish. The Klingons that you order off of Wish.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's Voyager, so I'm not expecting you to like it at all. So
That's harsh. I wouldn't say that I don't like them.
Well, it's your least favorite, right?
It is
least favorite show.
Yes, and the more we go on, the more that holds true. But
the more that's cemented.
Yeah.
For you.
But also it's just I don't know. We'll see. Let's just go watch it. We'll find out.
Okay. Maybe this will be the one to change your mind.
Right?
Right?
Yeah. Anything's possible. You just have to believe.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so now I've been Jonathan.
And I've been Paul.
And this has been The Measure of an Episode.
Bet you already knew that. I'm gonna get another one. How do you do Janeway? Like, it's hard to do her.
No, that was perfect.
Was it?
Oh man. Just because I totally forgot that we were doing that. It's
You forget every single time. I don't understand. It's our new thing.
Oh, it's too new. And so like we're just reaching the end and it just slips my mind. And then just here I've been Paul. But you already knew that.
It's like Audrey Hepburn.
Right.
On weed.
I mean, this is essentially what it is.